Hello and welcome to VIDEODRONE, a podcast about movies and TV and other shit. My name's Ben Vanel. I'm joined by my co-host Tommy Dassolo. How you going, Tony?
Good morning. I was just doing some stretching. If people are watching the video, they might have seen me limbering up in my little seat.
We are joined, as always, by our favourite guest we've ever had. She's white wine drunk and ready for a full moon party. It's Jen Fricker.
Yo, I apologize for the little throat gurgle that I decided. That was a creative choice.
Yeah.
I know I'm just a guest here, but I'm sorry.
You're a guest in our home.
I'm going to make this energy about me today.
Can I just quickly tease, speaking of throat gurgles, I did an episode of my other pod yesterday with Urvi Majumdar, and she was telling me that she'd learnt from a show when she was a kid called Backyard Science on the ABC how to spit from the back of your mouth. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I filmed them. She's like acted it out. She's like put her head back and like, I didn't say this in the moment, even though my brain was screaming at me to say this.
Yeah.
But it was like she was like squirting out of her mouth. It was like, and I just was like in awe. I'm like, I just cannot believe you did that on camera.
Yeah.
Do you know,
knowing this is filmed.
do you know who's in Backyard Science?
Who?
Me.
Whoa.
What?
I thought that's why you were bringing it up.
No. I'd never heard of the show before. No offense.
What the fuck? Yeah. I thought you were forgetting.
No.
Squirting thing,
Yeah.
I was meant to shoot that day, but I couldn't do
What
it.
the fuck?
It's like you gotta like underneath your tongue.
Yeah,
like, there's a
yeah.
muscle, and then it squirts from underneath your tongue.
Because she
Was
was
that
describing it to me and I was like, I don't know what you're saying. And then I've got it on camera just like, oh my God.
That's so funny.
Was that the show where the dude was like, it was like a dude in a lab coat and he would do stuff on the like the little bench in the studio and then there was other stuff? Or was that some other show?
I don't remember that.
That's so, wow, what a Hail Mary. The word science is in the show, in the title.
Now was
it a guy wearing a lab coat?
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe it was like two, like, I guess, older teens, and they were the hosts of the show, and then us tweens. So it would have been, like 12 or 13.
I was thinking of, I think, a Channel 7 show, but Backyard Science, yeah.
Backyard Science, that's the like really hairy Greek guy, right? And he's like...
Yeah, me.
It's just Costa in a lab coat.
7.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. I thought that's why you brought that up. That's
No, not at all. I just
What's
because it happened yesterday afternoon, and then you talking about
squirt,
throat and mouth stuff and just spit. It's still
That's such a distinct fucking memory for me, truly, because I had to stand with a producer for 10 minutes. And you're 13 years old on a fucking TV set, so you're like, I'll do anything, mister. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like,
Real Nickelodeon vibes.
Yeah.
Like trying to like squirt out my mouth
yeah.
for some fucking hungover 28-year-old fucking PA.
God.
Yeah, that's so funny.
That's crazy. I'll have to let her know. There's a nice
Yeah.
little tease for next week's episode of How to Do Everything. If you watch
beautiful.
the YouTube, you get to see a woman squirt on camera.
Hell yeah. Irby squirted at an all-girls school.
Wow.
On ABC iView.
Yes. Get around it.
Such great synergy, Tommy.
I know. Yeah.
So
Well,
funny.
we got a bunch of things to talk about this week, but let's kick off with a short film Jen, you notified us of last night. Little 10-minute shorty. How did you come across this film?
Okay.
How'd you come across this little shorty?
Shorty, how you find this shorty? So I am a prolific Letterboxd user. And I think the tip to using Letterboxd in a way that's not obnoxious is to follow people that you don't actually know who like have like much better taste than you. I had a a person I follow on Letterboxd. I like saw on the incoming tab or the friends tab or whatever, they were like, oh, I left a review for da da da, and I was like, what an interesting title. And then I tapped on it, And I was like, oh, wow, like there's a lot of reviews for this very small film. It must have just ran at, I think it was, Sundance maybe? I don't know, one of the American ones that have just like happened. But all of the reviews were like, this is really fucking good. And I was like, fuck, it's on YouTube. I'll just give it a go.
Yeah.
And then I was like, damn, it's good. The movie's called Joey Earns Rewards Using the McDonald's Mobile App, and Megh and Clev discuss their future together. That's the entire title.
Hell yeah.
At the moment, it's, I think, only got 121 watches on Letterboxd.
Yeah, it only had like 570 views on YouTube when I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on the No Budge channel on YouTube, which is like no budget filmmakers who like share their stuff. And I don't know, like I just am like, man, this is where like the next Sean Baker's going to be found. This is the next.
Absolutely.
Like there's been so much chat about how Sean Baker's first feature was shot entirely on iPhones, right? And what's so interesting about this short film is it's shot entirely in one take from a drone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it looks sort of like not quite security camera angle, but it is like that very much like up removed, like kind of looks like it could be on a street light or something of this car park next to the McDonald's drive-thru.
Yeah, it's all set in the parking lot of the McDonald's drive-thru, and it's about a couple who are seemingly going through it, and in the McDonald's drive-thru, one of them decides to propose to the other, and the girl's like, what are you doing? And then they pull over to have a chat about what's just happened. And then while this is happening, the guy behind them on a scooter, Joey, sees that they've pulled out of the line and goes over to check if they're okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you considered using the McDonald's app? Because you can actually get free drinks. And then
I'm imagining, do you think you'd be able to do like a re-edit where you splice in that Tim Robinson sketch where he's like doing the pay it forward thing in the drive-thru line?
I would say it's very like in its sensibility like a Tim Robinson sketch.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not just like, it plays out very much like there's this setup, you get to know this couple, the guy interrupts like once and then he sort of like scoots away. And they continue having this really serious discussion about their relationship. And she's like, is this because of your past? Is this, you just wanted to do this impulsively to sort of like create a sense of stability? And he's like, oh, yeah, I mean, maybe, but I really feel like this is the right thing to do. And then the guy on the scooter comes back and is like, oh, wait, hey, I just got this, what is it? It's a kind of McFlurry, I think.
It's like a grandma's Grandpa McFlurry or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But they're shooting it at a McDonald's too. Like, that's the other thing. It's like it's all from this super high, super wide aerial angle. So you don't see anyone's faces. You just see this car that you kind of learn has the couple in it, and this guy on a scooter behind them. Yes. Who you can hear, and so you can hear these vocal performances, and sometimes they overlap each other too.
Yes.
And I just thought it was such such a contained, simple, nice idea. And also I've never seen drone footage that like is used in a narrative way like this.
Because it's like it's not
unless you bloody consider the bloody war in bloody Iraq or whatever. I don't know. Fuck, sorry. It's
that was good. Keep going.
That's
keep
good.
going.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's an
That's
election
the clip for
year.
this week.
Sorry, folks. It's an election year.
Sorry, she's got politics on the mind.
I just go a bit loopy when it's an election year. I'm sorry.
Oh, bloody polling, etc.
But yeah, it's not like crystal clear 4K drone footage. It's kind of a bit blurry, kind of VHS. Not like
it's
like
crunchy.
It's totally, and it's very blurry. The guy who's on the scooter, he's like in a yellow t-shirt and a red scooter, so he's like very distinctive.
McDonald's coded.
100%. Like one of the 4 comments on YouTube was like, "This is the best McDonald's ad I've ever seen," which absolutely,
maybe.
But you're right. Like the couple are mic'd and Joey on the bike is mic'd, so it's just really like good comedic pacing where they'll start to get into a really serious tangent, and then he pipes in with like, I'm gonna get 2 more of those McFlurries, please. They were like, and it's just this really good juxtaposition. Just really, like you say, such an interesting use of drone footage. Very funny. Really, like, it's 10 minutes long, but it feels like it just comes and goes and gets out while the going is good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the rec. Jen.
Oh, that's all right. I just love that it's on YouTube too. Like, sometimes I think people are like, oh man, I don't go to film festivals, so I don't fucking know this stuff. And it's like, it's actually like so accessible to us now, some of this stuff. And like, people really are out here on social media making fucking really innovative and interesting film.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I'm just always like interested by people who take something that like really hasn't been explored as a storytelling device, like fucking drones, which are everywhere now, you know, like
I mean it's really interesting, that thing of like, you can make something so low budget or no budget, but you don't it is hard to come across actually the examples of that are good. Like, it does still feel like the stuff that gets put in front of you is still like has gone through the formal system and had at least a decent budget. So like, to track down that stuff that, because I remember like with Sean Baker being kind of put off by the narrative of Tangerine, like such a big thing of it was like, oh, it was all shot on an iPhone, and kind of thinking like, I don't know, that sounds kind of shitty.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that. That looks bad.
And then by the time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is like amazing. Like, it's you can pretty easily, but like even that form of just like, you know, phone cameras are so good and you can get decent little clip-on microphones, but then more often than not, that just gets used for like a 30-second TikTok of like calling strangers
What's
gay
a
in the
girl's
street
body
or
count?
whatever.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Evil content, essentially.
Yeah, it's rare to see like those like tools used in a, you know, for like a good storytelling medium rather than just like, disposable on the street kind of shit.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, like ingenious writing, because really, like, the sell of it is in the blocking of the cars, right? I've never looked at cars and been like, these are telling me a story. And the vocal, like the dialogue being spoken, right?
Yes.
Like, and it's like, that's actually really hard to do, to essentially write a good narrative dialogue only with very minimal, like, performance, you know, physically. I don't know. I was just so impressed by it. I just thought it was so clever. And it's on YouTube, and I just think people should get around it, because it's like, this is dope and just a really cool new thing that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah. We'll
Awesome.
put the full title in the description, because it's a long-ass title. But
I can read it one more time. It's called Joey Earns Rewards Using the McDonald's Mobile App, and Megh and Clev Discuss Their Future Together, and it's directed by Brad Rowland.
Nice.
Cool.
It's almost like a mumblecore version of like an Adult Swim short film, like how they go like, so, you know, like surreal and horrific. This is just like, the other direction. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, should we get into our recaps for this week?
Let's do it. Let's start with The White Lotus. Season 3, Episode 5.
Mamma Mia.
Is that what the episode's called?
That's right. We should just come up with our own episode title.
Yeah. It is like that sometimes.
That's what the episode's called.
You watch an episode and then you go back and you see what it was titled and you're like, oh, really? It's a bit of a dud.
Yeah.
Flop.
Yeah. So we get the full moon party this week, but let's go through character group by character group as we always have been.
Yep.
Let's kick off with that crazy Ratliff family.
Oh boy.
And we're gonna separate the boys out, I think, because the boys and the boys at the party are their own thing. But Piper, she's coming clean.
Yep.
She teased it last week, but she's got no Lachlan there to back her up, and she's like, I lied to you about the reason that we came here. I want to join a monastery and meditate for a year. And holy shit, Parker Posey just absolutely kills this scene.
I lost track of all the funny stuff she says in this scene.
You want to stay in Taiwan?
Taiwan was great. But there were like four bangers in the lead up to that.
My God. It's so funny.
But you're not a Buddhist.
Yeah.
But everyone we know's Christian.
Yeah, she's losing her mind. Tim's sort of, he doesn't love it, but he's also like, you know, she just her going, I don't know, there's got to be something more than, you know, this life isn't, you know, it's pretty dodgy, and Parker Posey being aghast at that, and Tim just being like, well, you know.
She's probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
recently had some information come to me that maybe suggests she could be right.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, fuck.
Incredible scene.
Yeah.
So
Three
good.
great actors. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
truly. I'm loving, like, yeah, obviously anytime Parker Posey comes into this bitch, tearing it up. But, like,
Yeah.
even just, forgotten Jason Isaacs, like, playing this man just descending into hell.
He's doing that
Every
so
day
well.
a fresh hell.
Just every time they cut to him and he looks just weathered. He just looks
Yeah.
not there. It's
Yeah.
like, it's, that's the hardest type of acting. The like not having any lines, but just having to convey.
Right.
Yeah. Disassociating, but in a way
Right.
that you know exactly why.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not over the top at all. Like, it's not exaggerated. It feels very realistic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's fucking great.
Yeah.
And yeah, Sarah Catherine Hook is very believable as this naive young girl who's like, yeah, I'm not like you guys. I'm looking for more, but like clearly doesn't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Like
talked
a lot
about
the local culture.
Also,
Yeah.
like, just the entitlement of being like, I'm going to trick my family into taking
Right.
me to
Yeah.
a luxury
Right.
resort in Thailand so I can go look
Yeah.
at a monastery.
Can't
We,
speak the language.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. I think it happened in that episode, but where she's saying to Lachlan, like, I'm, that's where she comes clean. That's what she's planning to do, and she's going to tell the parents. And she's like, yeah, I went and I spent some time and I had a good look around, and like we saw her go there and just basically go to the front desk for 5 minutes. Like even that I loved,
Yeah.
like her just really feeling like she's got a great read on it. It's like you were there for 5 seconds.
You
Yeah.
went to the courtyard, had
Yeah.
a look, loved
Yeah.
the little
Like-
dresses, and you were like, I'm in.
That's
The
it.
dude
Like
wasn't even there who you wanted to
Yeah.
chat to. Like, yeah.
That's it. I mean, the parents freaking out. Like, you just know she'd be back home within like 2 months.
months.
Like,
Right.
you just know she would. She's so that personality type.
Yeah.
Would not like wants to get away from the privilege, but once she's away from the privilege, is like, oh yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah, and also like I think this is the obvious theme of the season, but it's all about finding yourself, finding your identity, and even in that scene, like even with Parker Posey, she is imposing her identity or her perception or her understanding of her own identity, Piper's identity. Like that's there, as funny as it is.
Yeah.
The line, organized religion and deviant sex have always gone hand in hand. Look at the Catholic Church. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
There's a creator on TikTok who always talks about how Piper and Parker Posey's character are always kind of dressed similarly, like stylistically and color-wise. Like it's all, like she's still kind of dressed by her mom.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is so, like, I think it's such a nice use of costume design to be like, yeah, like, Parker Posey wants her to go to the same college as her,
Yes.
wants her to join the same sorority, like, wants her to do the same thing, stay in the same state, wear the same clothes, because, like, she really is trying to shape this girl in her own image.
Yeah.
But is also so benzoed out. She has no idea, like...
So in the middle of this, Tim goes to the bathroom, and that's where Guy Tok has seen him on the security footage.
Oh, yes.
Taking the gun out of the office. And I loved it, because I think this is the first thing we see in the episode. I loved him just like replaying the moment that he walks out of the office like dozens and dozens of times, just hitting that loop button. So he's kind of eyeing him off the whole dinner, and then sees him go to the bathroom and is like, hey, you gotta give me that back. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Which, God, I love the confidence of just like, no, I'm actually just not going to. I'm just gonna keep it now. So yeah,
I love Guy Tok too. Like, he really is terrible at his job.
Yeah.
He's so
So
bad at his
bad.
job.
Yeah.
And I get it. Lisa's so hot.
Yeah.
She distracts me at work too.
Yeah.
And we
But
don't,
it's, I
all we
hope
get-
he's okay.
I mean, I don't think he's going to be okay.
I don't
I
think
don't
he's
think
gonna be
he's gonna be
okay.
okay.
But
Yeah.
Get a bit of Lisa dancing.
No one else who works there
all.
is like, why is the security guard just kind of loitering around the restaurant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's letting
Well, no, the
people in
guy-
and out of the car park?
The guy comes up, Fabian comes up, remember? And he's like, just a few minutes. You got to be back at the booth.
Oh yeah. True.
But yeah, so Tim ignores that. By the end of the episode, though, he is writing a suicide letter. with the gun next to him.
It is Duke.
I know.
It's
So
his uni
funny.
merch.
Yeah.
So funny.
Awesome touch. Really excellent touch.
Yeah. And he's
Ending it all
literally-
in your Melbourne Uni Law School hoodie.
Oh my God.
Incredible shit.
Again, it's like his identity. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Right? He's
Duke.
he's the guy who went to Duke. He's the
Duke.
guy who made it big.
Yep.
Although off his parents' money, we did find out. And he's about to pull that dang trigger when Victoria walks in, and yeah, he plays it down. He screws up the note. He says, "Oh, I've just got some things."
I was
going
writing
on."
some stuff down to remember.
And she's like, "But you've got everything. Like, what do you got to be worried about?" And he has that little crack of like, "You have no idea the pressure I've always been under, the expectation." Again, like the success of his family before him, he's always had it hanging over him. Yeah, it's his fault for doing some fucking dodgy deals, but I guess he feels like he's always lived with that expectation. And Parker Posey says that she still can't find her lorazepam.
Yep.
She's going to have to drink herself
Gonna
to
have to
sleep.
drink myself to sleep.
Oh,
She's so
brother.
good.
It's so funny seeing something like this where, like, I feel like she's gotten funnier as it's gone along. And if this was like a network sitcom or whatever, you'd be like, oh yeah, they clocked in episode 1 that the people are loving her, so
Right.
let's give her more to do. But it truly just is like in a bubble, just Mike White just knowing like, yeah, this is good shit.
Yeah, I saw this tweet that was like, the White Lotus has a Bravo-like energy around it because it is just a gay man obsessed with a middle-aged woman.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like,
he's found
like
his
she's
next
so
muse.
good. She's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
And it's someone who's clearly so familiar with like her range, her like I saw like old clips. Have you guys ever watched the Josie and the Pussycats movie? That
I think I saw it once when I was younger, yeah.
Lauren rewatched it recently while I was away, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you who did love it. Apparently, my dog
Oh,
hell yeah.
was glued to the screen. Apparently,
He's like, what's up with these pussycats? Parker Posey is in it, and she plays
Right.
like a record label CEO. It's very like campy and silly and goofy, and it's like Parker Posey and Alan Cumming kind of play the two main
Right.
villains. It's so good, and I saw this clip the other day where from the film. Where Parker Posey's trying to just like girl out with the girls, and she just does these like weird hand movements, and it's so like, and then she throws herself onto a bed, and it's just so.
Oh,
I don't know.
I saw that clip as well. Yeah.
It's just like
yeah.
she overcommits physically to everything all the time.
Yeah.
That you're just like, when she's playing a relatively normal person, and like this Ratliff character is not normal, but it's like comparatively quite naturalistic.
Yeah.
You're just like, fuck, she's so dialed in. Like, she really knows how to make every little crumb funny. Like, even if she has like only this much dialogue or like this much leeway as a character, like her character is heavily sedated, and there'd be a way to play that is like very boring and very nothing and very like, I'm too spacey to like, but the way she plays it, you just are constantly like, fuck, this woman she's so smart. Like, it's just everything, every choice is so smart.
Yeah.
I love watching it.
Yeah, yep. So then we've got those Ratliff, those young lads.
Yep. We got the boys on the boat.
We've got Saxon and we've got the little magician. The little magician.
yes.
Imagine if a girl you liked referred to you as the little magician,
The little comedian.
little comedian, the little podcaster.
I mean, I had no doubt that's happened behind my back
Yes.
with
For
women
sure.
I've been involved with across my
The
life.
little comedian.
The little comedian.
Oh, boy.
The little drawer.
I will say one time a guy called me my little Woody Allen, and I was like,
Oh,
the fuck? And he was like, oh, you know, because you're like funny and you're neurotic. And I'm like, Yeah. What else about Woody Allen, though? There's one
Yeah.
other key thing about Woody Allen that you're
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
leaving out, and that's not me.
Speaking of that kind of humor, can I just go back quickly to the Josie and the Pussycats cast?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Parker and Cumming. I thought you were talking about the George Michael movie.
What?
Parker and Cumming.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about the George Michael movie.
Because he went to a park
Because he spoofed in a park.
and he spoofed in a park.
Yep. Yep. That's Jay Leno doing a monologue about the Josie and the Pussycats movie for some reason. Hard to imagine even at the week of release that would have happened. Week of release.
Thanks for that, my little comedian.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're off on the boat to their full moon party, and yeah, Saxon is he wants to get some action. He wants this to get going.
I love this episode for Saxon because at the start he's talking a big game as per usual. He's like, Lockie, you gotta get laid tonight. Like, we're gonna make it happen. There's the girls out there; they're gonna be loving it. He's like, I don't want to get too drunk. I like the girls get too drunk, and then it's easy to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And then we have Chloe and Chelsea. Chloe, is like, I love that little magician. I'm gonna fuck him tonight.
I'm
And
gonna fuck that little magician.
Chelsea's like, but what about Rick?
Yeah,
He's me soulmate.
I'm the romantic, innit?
I'm really worried something bad's gonna happen.
Yep. Yep.
But Chelsea
she's like,
gets into it.
She's like, I feel like he's my son.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed
and
that.
she's like, he's 50.
Yeah.
I think my favorite line of Chelsea's was like, I don't want to appear that I'm feeling too sorry for myself, while she's like, big eyes, like,
Yeah.
quivering.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'm so worried.
Yeah. But they fucking hit the town. It's, it is. I think last week we were speculating about the water festival that was happening. It's Thai New Year's Eve. Big ass full moon party. Mm-hmm. And I think it pretty much kicks off with Chloe offering everyone. I assumed some pingers. I'm reading this recap that says LSD, but I don't think this person knows what LSD looks like.
No.
I feel like
pills.
backpacker culture in Thailand is pinger culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And like on like fireworks party
Yeah.
night, like clubbing, definitely pingers.
Yeah.
Not that I have any particular expertise in the area. So Saxon doesn't want to do it. He's like, I don't do drugs. I want to be, aware of my surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone doesn't.
Even sober, he is so unaware of his surroundings. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
cannot read a room.
Yeah. But he starts to feel a little bit more uptight than everyone else, weirdly. Like, everyone else is like, and I think, Lockie's down for it. Chelsea's down for it. Like, they're all, but Saxon ends up doing it as well. And then they just start, weaving through the crowd, enjoying the sights and sounds. And Lachlan is fucking loving it. He's hitting his stride. He's not like, he's not nervous. Like, he's a young guy. He's like 17, 18, but he's like reveling in it. And then, they like end up sitting on the beach watching the fireworks. I was really jealous of them in that moment. That looked very fun.
Yeah.
But they end up, where do they end up? Are they back at their
They get back on the boat, right?
Oh, they're back on the boat.
Yeah.
And then it's a little bit of who's gonna make out with who.
Yeah.
Yep.
I saw Charlotte Le Bon, who's the actress who plays Chloe, be like, oh, my character's just a bored evil cunt.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Like, that's a perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Oh yeah, because before they head into the party, she's like, because I think Chelsea's like, aren't you worried about Gary? And she's like, yeah, I sometimes think that he could legitimately kill me.
Oh yeah, because she's like, oh yeah, I couldn't do that to Rick. cheat on him or whatever, and she's like, what, do you think he'd like kill you or whatever? And she's like,
Right.
no, just he'd be really upset.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I think Gary would kill me.
Yeah.
But really, like, not fussed, like
Yeah.
in a very
Yeah.
throwaway, like, no, well,
Yeah.
I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's take a risk. It's fun.
Yeah.
I love all the, just before we even get to the full moon party, the shots of Rob Carlton absolutely cooked on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's back.
Again.
Yep.
Again, love it. Love just watching a great Australian character actor play the ultimate Australian, which is
Yeah.
a drunk old man in Thailand.
Yep.
So
And the
good.
dream, right? He gets flown over there to do
Yeah, probably
do,
had to
like,
be there for a couple
3
months.
lines.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So good.
We got to
So-
go. We got to go to his comedy festival show. We got to hit him up afterwards.
Oh, yeah,
and
get
be
Oh,
him,
has he got a comedy festival?
Yeah, he's
show
got
on?
he's got this show on at the moment that's apparently great. That
Oh, sick.
yeah,
I'ma
that a
look
few
it
people
up.
have seen and loved it. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, let's go and then bail him up afterwards and get all the
yeah.
goss.
Let's get an on the street interview with him.
He go, Logie
Let's-
winning actor Rob Carlton.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I love that. That's his lead line. Logie winning actor.
He's in the guide under L.
Should be as seen in the White Lotus. I mean, I guess it will
Yeah,
be from
but I
now
guess
on.
yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Directed
Yeah.
by Darren Gilshan. Oh, this is good.
Yeah. We got to.
Okay.
Let's hit him
do
up on the
it.
street afterwards with our little Bluetooth mic and ask him his body count
Yeah.
for our TikTok account.
Let's get absolutely fuck-eyed on booze and pingers.
Yeah.
Just go to his show.
Suck him off.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go suck off Rob Carlton at the MIC. If you're down,
Yeah.
Get on the drafts if you know what I mean.
Let's 6:30
organise.
at the Malt House. That's very manageable.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Let's meet up for
Let's
a suck off.
Let's do a little group outing.
Suck off
Yeah.
at the Malt House.
Let's suck him off before the sun's even gone down.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you think he appreciates this plug?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Guy like him who's been around a while, you know,
Yeah.
he gets it. He knows,
He gets
knows
it.
how the game's played.
We gotta kiss the ring sometime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they're hanging out on the boat in the evening, and there's a bit of this kind of happens in sort of montage, right? Like it's not like you kind of see Saxon kind of gesturing to them, being like, you can tell that he's saying like, you guys should kiss.
Yep.
And they do, and then he's like, he's high-fiving his little brother.
Yeah.
That's such a great character trait.
So
Like,
funny.
the man who cannot imagine anything better on this earth than seeing
girls
two
kissing.
women kissing in front of him. Just like, yes!
Yeah.
This will keep the black dog away for another couple of months.
Yeah. Then Lockie and Chloe kiss, and then there's a little bit of what
The
about
brothers.
you two bros? They do a little peck, and I was like, thank God that could have been so much
Yeah.
more uncomfortable. And then it gets way more uncomfortable.
It's
Yeah.
a full Mac attack.
yeah. Oh,
I heard someone describe it as it's a power move by Lockie on Saxon.
100%.
It's not necessarily sexual. It's more just like oh, you think you're my big brother and you know everything? I'm going to fucking big dick you in front of these girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's like Saxon gets progressively less outgoing as the night goes on. He starts off being like, we're gonna fuck so many bitches, and then he takes the drug, he feels out of his element. He does seem to kind of like relax into like, he's kind of zoned out and watching the fireworks, and then all of a sudden shit becomes real again, and he's like, he's pointing at the other people to make out. He's not getting involved. Like he talks such a big game, but it seems like Lockie sees that and is like, fuck you, like I'm asserting my dominance over you, which he does say earlier on, like, I'm gonna take you down tonight, which is like so ominous, but fucking very interesting scene. Interesting dynamics.
Yeah.
I feel like every season of White Lotus has that moment where you're like, like, I know like the obvious comparison would be like the uncle and nephew in
Sure.
in the last, but for me, the moment I always think about is the moment with Will Sharp and what's her name, where they're walking to those rocks, and we don't know if they've gone to fuck, but probably they have. Like, I love these kind of really small moments that like give you an entire psychology and relationship dynamics between an entire group of people as well. And I think Mike White's really good at just encapsulating power dynamics and how they can shift in like one action.
Yeah.
Totally.
I saw a thing of Michelle Monaghan talking about getting her hair dyed blonde for the role, and Mike White's idea was like, yeah, these girls all have to be blonde. They're like an amorphous, I want them to be kind of like, when you first see them, kind of indistinguishable from one another. Really just like, and even just thinking about that in terms of just the script before you've even, like it feels like when he was writing it, that was in his head. Like they've all got to be blonde.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And they're all like different variations of blonde. Like you've got Leslie Bibb and the very like kind of cunty little bob, like very sharp, very groomed. You have Carrie Coon's character that's more naturalistic, wavy, a bit more grown, like and then of course like Michelle Monaghan's like perfectly styled, perfectly bohemian, wavy, perfectly highlighted, like everything. And again, it just says so much about like they are this blonde kind of trio of like, but what blondness can represent, or like how that, I don't know. Yeah. Fuck, that's so interesting.
Because they're all down at they're at a beach club. They meet some Russians.
Yeah.
They're getting on one. Michelle Monaghan is really Jacqueline. She's really keen to just like relive the glory days.
Yeah. It reminded me of Baby Girl. Some great rave scenes of like older women, younger men this year.
Yeah. So they go clubbing. They hit the fucking club, and I was watching it with my partner, and she was like, "Man, this makes me want to go clubbing."
Same.
Because like the music was great. I assume it's the guy Christabel something who does the theme and the score for the show. I don't know if it was, but it was fucking great. Like it was actually, I would have been down for clubbing. To that. Like that was really fun. And yeah, they hit the dance floor. They're having drinks first. I think they get shots. Kate doesn't do a shot. She's responsible. She remains the responsible one throughout the night. Laurie takes the second shot. Is that right? Yeah. And then they're like, "Hey, we were all ballet dancers. Let's go dancing." And I don't know if they taught that in ballet class, but there's some grinding going on.
Yeah.
And I love that two of the Russians also danced, and one of them just works out.
Yeah.
I do things with tires and
Lift
ropes.
heavy rope.
I love the moment of Jacqueline sort of seeing these other women, these like younger girls who kind of look like they recognize her, and they kind of seem to have a bit of a like, oh, look at her, she's like partying, she's still got it. And that really just her being like, yes, mission accomplished. People think I'm cool and young.
I am young, exactly.
I've been recognized. I hope this gets out that I go clubbing.
And then they're like, it's still at the club, right, where they're like, because the other Russian girls come over and they're like, "Hey, what the fuck, dude? You're my boyfriend." You know, I think I saw someone translate it as just basically like, "I've been calling you. Why are you ignoring me? Who are these old American bitches?" Basically.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, "Oh, we should probably go." And then is it Jacqueline who's like, "Let's go back to the villa," or Laurie? One of those two. Kate is like, "I want to go to bed."
Just wants to go to bed.
I think the night's over.
Yep. And then they get back to the villa and more drinking, hopping in the pool.
Skinny dipping.
Dicks out,
skinny
out.
dipping.
A lot of dongs in this show. A lot of dong out in this show.
Yes.
And I appreciate it.
Yep. Again, my partner mentioned that before like as the guy jumps in the pool, and I was like,
Can we rewind?
Can
we pause?
Can we set this on 0.5?
Does this TV zoom in?
I was like, usually HBO shows it's all about the boobs. Give me where them titties at.
Is there a 4D cinema nearby we could go watch this at?
I've actually got one of them 3D TVs for next week. I was thinking about that. The scene. I'm skipping ahead a little, but Michelle Monaghan on the bed with one of the Russians, and I was like, man, this really reminds me of a flipped like Tony Soprano scene. Like,
totally.
yeah.
The way that it's kind of shot all from the not protagonist as such, but like character's perspective of like you're watching them devour the beauty or the nudity or whatever of like whoever around them, and I'm like, oh, that's it. Like, yeah, I honestly thought like, man, 10 years ago on HBO, this would have been a dude like being seduced by a woman, and like it's flipped, and it's so interesting to see that. I
kept thinking of Game of Thrones because it was also like it was often like it was just exposition and there was a naked woman there, and you're right, the dude would be dressed, position of power, and it was totally flipped. And then like Laurie getting him out was like that was an empowering thing for her of like, I'm having so much fucking fun, like I'm joining in on the fun rather than it being like an objectification. It was like very interesting dynamic. Again, like a very different writer's perspective compared to all of those shows before.
And she's kind of talking to them about like stuff at her work and everything that's going on, really getting into the weeds, and this guy being like, my mother died when I was 7.
Everyone's really like 2 bottles of wine in conversation stuff.
Yeah. But then
yes.
the whole time Kate's just like, she's just there in her pajamas, just
so cute,
just ready to go to bed, like really ready to wrap it up.
But Laurie's obviously she's been like not so much that she's been keen on Valentine, but Jacqueline has been pushing Laurie to hook up with Valentine from the start.
Yeah,
and Laurie is getting into it. She's having a great time as things do wrap up. Which like a lot of this episode was more like the tension of what could happen. Like a lot of the stuff with the boys and Chloe and Chelsea was like, okay, so when is something gonna go wrong? I was feeling same with this, but we kind of get to the end of the night. No, like I was thinking like someone's gonna bang their head on the edge of the pool. Like some this is so dangerous.
But it's also like through the whole series again, it's just shots of water, shots of bodies from underwater, shots of the body in the first scene of the first episode floating through the water. Like constantly we're told like water is danger. Like water represents death, and it represents tsunami. And so so anytime characters are near water, in water, like talking about water, it's like it's so ominous. There's so much tension to it, even if they are just like the girlies going off.
100%. And so Laurie like whispers in Valentine's ear. She's clearly like, come on back to the villa later if you want.
Come on, baby, let me show you. I'll translate it for you. She goes, so fucking have a good time. So come back. And you got to imagine how stinky that breath would be too.
Oh, yeah.
That heavy white wine. That's like when the white wine is hot and you're drinking it.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that Thai evening, that'd be hot white wine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And he's like, okay, lady.
Righto.
Cool.
Righto then. And then everyone heads off to bed. Laurie's passed out, scratching her little butt.
Hell yeah, girl.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was a great touch. And then what happens? Who's a knocking at the door? But sexy Valentine, who's there to have a little shag with Jacqueline. Who, Bridget was just like, that's such a fucking mean girl thing.
Yeah.
I had the exact. I was like, wow, she's dogging the girls.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
I
called shotgun.
But totally like has been building Laurie up this whole time, and then is like, no, I want to feel young and hot. I'm going to take this guy. And it's a dog move. It's a dog and the girls move. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We have to rule it as such.
Yeah.
Your Honour?
Yeah, Your Honour. The jury has found
Guilty.
She's
of dogging
the girls.
Yep.
And that is the end of
girlies.
That's
the
the girlies. Man, I love it. Once again, incredible scripting of just the effect of white wine on women above the age of 35.
Yes.
Girls, this is like, Wow. It's real flashback because it's also like
Oh.
women don't change. This is the same
Right.
fucking trouble you get yourself into at schoolies or some shit. You know, like
Right.
it really is.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
Because
It's just so well written.
My friends refer to white wine as the devil's juice, and then a rosé is the devil in disguise because you trick yourself. You trick yourself, and it's not a
That's
white.
so good.
And
That's
then
a devil in
a
a few
disguise.
glasses in, you're like, I'm feeling a little bit white wine. I gotta say,
Yeah, we gotta let the white wine talk now.
Yes.
is the white wine in the room with us right now? Sorry.
I was going to say that just that because they had been friends for so long but had been apart, it feels like they are regressing into that like high school, college behavior, which, like you say, it's not good. It's not good. We don't like it.
Good.
We don't like it. Then we've got, I think, just a couple other storylines, but let's go to Belinda and Pornchai.
Oh yeah.
So she's convinced that Gary.
Yep.
She knows it's him. She knows that he did something to Tanya.
Yep.
And she goes to, what's his name again? The
Fabian, the manager.
Fabian.
Yeah. And he's just like, no, we're not going to go to the cops.
Yeah.
Really doesn't want to hear it.
A lot of our guests have checkered pasts.
Yeah.
We tend to overlook that.
But he's not a guest. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
He's like, he just
Yeah.
lives up on the hill and comes down for dinner every now and then.
Yeah. He's very casual about it for
Yeah.
Do we think he's more involved than we?
Maybe.
I don't know. Just because the thing that stuck with me is in that episode where Fabian, and we laughed about it at the time, where Fabian's like, you know, I actually write songs. Like,
Yes,
I'd love to
yes.
perform. I feel like it gives you a little insight to his character of like, he wants more than what he has constantly, right? And so I feel like a guy like that who's constantly around the resort, who is close enough to Fabian to be like, who's that? Tell me her name. Tell me her details and stuff like that, is like someone who feels like they've definitely had more conversations about Fabian's dream. Like, I think he's on Gary's hook, maybe not explicitly criminally, but in a way that he's compelled to defend Gary.
Yeah.
When he's just some fucking old guy who comes like as they've said, like another bald guy, loser back home, like in this. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I reckon there's like something more to it, because just the idea that he would be like, "You'll be fine." I don't think it's like I don't know. And the way he's kind of moving with guy talk, where he's kind of been like, "Oh, you did a bad job, but here's a gun." Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
something
interesting.
about it. I'm like, I don't know. Like, what is he trying to like swirl up, or like, what is he like moving these chess pieces to do?
Yep. I can see that.
That's my own little theory on it.
Yeah. It's funny because all I'd known the actor from before was The Zone of Interest. And I kind of thought the idea was that he was really playing against that type, because that's obviously the most famous thing that this guy has been in. He's the lead in it. He's chilling and fucked up, and it's, you know, an incredible performance of a Nazi. And here he is sort of the soft-spoken, like, compare him to like Armand or what was her name from the Italian manager?
Oh yeah.
I can't remember her name, but such big characters and big parts of the stories in their respective seasons. Fabian, he's like such a mild-mannered seeming guy. I was like, oh, maybe it's just not an important character this season, but maybe they have cast this guy for a reason. Like you say, maybe there is more going on under the surface. Not necessarily like evil, but someone who
Definitely a bit more manipulative than and just like that little hint of like he wants more. He has ambitions. He thinks he deserves more.
And he really played down the fact that this guy might have murdered his wife. So.
Yeah, that's it, right? Because if you heard that like this guy, hey, I know this guy, and I'm pretty sure he murdered his wife, and it's on the news and stuff, and people are looking for him. You wouldn't be like, oh, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, shit, okay, maybe I'll check that out. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll survive is what he says.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a little ominous.
So yeah, she's what's the guy's name? He comes
Child.
around, yeah, and she's
Hell yeah, baby.
she's been hearing stuff. She's scared. It's just a little lizard man getting in there.
Yep.
But she's like, "Oh, would you just stay?"
Just
And
for
he's
tonight.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'll
Sun's
stay."
here
She gives
tomorrow.
her consent.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Do you do that here? Because we've only just gotten it.
Oh, yeah. She's adorable. She's
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they start what I assume is a night of fucking.
Yep.
I hope so. That's the very least she deserves, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After everything
Yep.
she's been through. Also, like, I don't know if you guys talked about last week, but, like, the timeline of this all seems to be, like, quite immediately after the events of Italy. Like, I think it's, like, only a few
Right.
months after Italy.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yes.
like, the fact that she's only just finding out about it, because someone was saying with the news articles kind of make it seem like it was only a few months before.
Yeah,
Right.
interesting. I hadn't clocked that, but yeah, you're right.
Yes.
So,
Because it would have
like-
been a little odd for her to just have. Yeah, for this to have happened a year ago and her not found out about this woman,
Yeah.
like this benefactor of hers.
And
And-
the second
and then I
murder
guess-
to happen, like, to a person that she knows.
Yeah, and I guess Italy's like fairly recently after season 1, right?
Yeah. I think so,
yeah. So all of these are taking place within like what, a year? 6
Yeah.
months?
Yeah, like a summer, like a holiday season.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
And
Yeah.
the link between them all is Gary. The uncle from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yep. Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
So
Oh boy.
meanwhile, the great man
Yes.
Goggins is he's over in Bangkok.
Hell
He's on his little
yeah.
mission. Some great shots of him, kind of like driving through the city.
Yeah.
Have you been to Bangkok, Tommy?
Yeah,
Is it good?
yeah.
Yeah.
Looks
So
cool.
I know that's not the question you meant to ask or whatever, but no, because I just don't know, like, how is it different? Because in my mind, and this is my very, like, small understanding of Thailand,
Yeah.
like, to me, I'm like, it's all beaches and resorts and stuff, but Bangkok's obviously
Oh no,
like,
Bangkok's like a
city.
big. It's like it's a big city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's got like the big shopping malls, and then it's got like the night markets and the smaller, cheaper food centers. But then it's got like high end stuff as well. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. It looked awesome. I've never been to Thailand, but yeah, it was giving sort of Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong vibes.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
Bridget had been there and she was like, they're in Chinatown.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah, I love how this stuff was filmed. The like,
Yeah.
It looks
the little
stunning.
food vendors, but the big like lights and all
Yeah.
that's the combination of them was great. So Goggins is in town. We know what he's there to do. But first he meets up with his old buddy, the dancing man himself. Which we paused this episode so that Lauren could watch a compilation of him boogieing his way onto Jimmy Fallon.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, like, we've talked about it, I'm sure we've talked about it before, but Sam Rockwell dancing in Charlie's Angels, like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
is such a sexual awakening for millennial women. Because, like, nothing gets, like, because Charlie's Angels came out, what, like 2000 or 2002 maybe? So, like, right in that tween era.
Yeah.
And you're telling me a fruity man is dancing
Yeah.
in this girl movie? Yeah, I'm going to want
Yeah.
to fucking jerk it to that. Absolutely. That's like catnip to me.
Yeah.
A good guy who's actually bad?
Yeah. A
That's
bad
hot
boy.
as fuck in
a
my
bad
teenage
sexy
mind.
boy dancing.
A bad sexy boy who
Ooh.
dances? Come
We'll be
on.
right back with more backyard science after this.
I'm squirting out my mouth over here.
Did you guys know that Rockwell was going to be in this?
No, I
No,
think
I
they
had
kept
no
that
idea.
under.
Yeah.
I think they kept that under wraps.
Yeah.
I knew before watching the ep just because of Goggins posting about it like that day, like
right.
after the episode had aired in the States. But
Right.
but no, I mean, great casting,
Really
and just like
good.
watching him, I was like, man, that's the funny thing about watching this season is thinking like, well, there's like connective tissue across all of these seasons, and so we know that they do reuse people from time to time, and going like, oh, who could be the link across? I mean, yeah, I'd love to see a Sam Rockwell turn up for a
Right.
full season somewhere or
Yeah.
wherever they
Yeah.
go next. But
Because
but yeah,
Leslie Bibb's partner.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah,
So
right.
I just like the idea that they're like, I'm going to Thailand. Why don't you come to
Yeah.
a spot?
Yeah.
Hang out with me for 3 months
Yeah.
in Thailand.
Not in the same bit though.
Yeah. Different character. Different.
Yeah.
Different. But
Yeah.
perfect. Sam Rockwell,
so good.
like, he's so good at playing utter freaks.
Yeah. So he
So
comes in
good.
and delivers a monologue for the ages. If I was in year 11 and doing theatre studies, I'd be
Yeah.
pushing to do this for my
If I was
end of year
prepping-
assessment.
NIDA modern monologue. That's what I'd be doing.
Oh, yeah. Which, again, well, like I said it at the start of the ep, all about identity. All about identity, and like Goggins barely talks throughout this entire scene, essentially. But, yeah, Rockwell, Frank is his character's name.
They're boys from back in the day. They used
Yeah.
to party together, and we still don't really know like what specifics of what Goggins has been getting up to in his life that's
Yeah.
like led him
It
to
ain't
here.
good, though.
It ain't good.
It ain't good. And, like, he says, like, at the end of the scene, he's like, where they, outside, they're sort of saying goodbye. It's like, I might need a favor. And he's like, yeah, just, tell me the job. I'll see. I feel like they were like, bank robbers, like stick-up guys, something like that.
Something like that. Always pulling some
'cause
kind of
Frank's
con.
character's
Yeah.
landed in Thailand because he says he can't go back to the States.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, that's why he's there. And then the monologue is just incredible about how he's like sleeping with all these women, thousands and thousands of women, some ladyboys, to use his phrasing as well, and he still can't fill this hole in himself, whatever that is. And yeah, I saw like a lot of comments being like, and then I thought he was going to say, I realized that it was more about finding happiness than seeking external validation, but no, not quite. It was about, I think I want to be the little Asian girl, again, to use his phrasing.
Because he's like, yeah, I wanted to be one of these lady boys. And I'm thinking, oh, so he's trans. That's what this revelation is. But it's just such a roundabout way of him, like, saying that he came to the realization that he's either bi or gay, that he wants to be fucked by men. But the way he phrased it, like, I wanted to be
The lady boy. I want to be the lady boy getting fucked by me.
By me, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
incredible. And
He
also,
goes, I put an ad in the paper or an ad online for and then this old white guy came around and just railed the shit out of me. He just says that phrasing and so throwaway, so casually. And then he just railed the shit out of me.
His character now is so serene and so, like, zen. He's drinking chamomile tea. He's
Been
off
sober
the
10
gear.
months. Yeah.
He's a Buddhist now.
Yeah.
Apparently. And so, yes, the way that he delivers this entire monologue with such calmness is incredible. It just adds to how sort of surreal it feels.
There's like something I really loved in Sam Rockwell's performance is that he has this kind of like semi kind of dazed look too.
Yeah.
There's something like a little unfocused or like wide-eyed about him when he's saying this. Like he's like, and it's still a bit like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, that's such a small thing. Again, like you probably get a script for one episode and you're like, and it's just this insane monologue. It's like, okay, how do I create like a whole backstory for this person? Like, of like, he's been like robbing banks his whole life. He's done some pretty fucked up shit. He like comes to Thailand to party and waste his life away, and then like has this insane revelation about himself that leads him to sobriety and Buddhism. Like, how do you do that in one episode in like essentially 2 scenes? Not even 1.5 scenes.
Totally. And just also this pivot where, we knew at the end of last episode, Goggins is heading over to Bangkok and thinking, okay, well, and we know what he's there to do.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to see some shit go down. And then I'd seen like a couple of little just grabs of his reaction shots of people being like, oh my God, what an episode. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, fuck, he's going to just, and the expectation of
he's going to have a showdown with his father's killer and be like, you
and then
son
this
of a
pivot
bitch.
of like, he speaks like maybe 4 times across the episode.
Yeah.
Every time they cut back to him and he's just aghast is so good.
Yeah.
I love it too because like this episode, you kind of see Jason Isaac's character being the flip of Goggins' character.
Yeah.
Where Goggins' character is like, my identity is a guy who is bad. And the consequences of my actions are going to, at some point, catch up to me. And it's inevitable. And there's nothing I can do to change. Whereas Jason Isaac's character is like, I'm a good person. I don't deserve these consequences of my actions. And like, I feel like I'm gonna start praying to God or something, like to just be able to like get out of this situation that, like, even though I've created for myself, I'm not a bad person.
Yes,
I don't know, it's just so, and like the fact that they've kind of always set them up, like Goggins smoking outside, that guy being like, please don't fucking smoke near me. Just like them constantly brushing past each other in the hallways and stuff. Like, I love that we just have these two mirrors of each other. It's such, sorry, I keep nerding out on the writing. This was just such a fucking good episode.
I know, I loved it. I really like. We said this last week, Tommy, as well. That like, it may feel slow to some people, but it is all character focused.
This felt like such a good antidote to just, people can have their opinions, whatever, but just being driven insane every time I see some person be like, nothing's happening, and it's like, I mean, stuff is happening. Shut up. If it's not to your taste or whatever, but you can't say that nothing's happening.
It feels like it's ramping up. Like, it feels like, I will say, the first few episodes did feel slow, but we also had to care about these people. Like,
100%.
We had to, like, understand their dynamics. Like,
two of them have guns now.
Yeah. And it is that whole thing of, like,
Two brothers made out.
One of them's a Buddhist.
One guy was this close to killing himself.
I just think it's fucking phenomenal writing. Yeah. And it just feels like, and we're going to talk about Severance, but I feel like Severance has like really pulled back on the brakes.
Man, 100%.
Leading up to the season finale.
Well, okay, so do we, that's White Lotus done. Are we ready to put a pin in that and move on to Severance?
Yeah.
I think that was everything in White Lotus.
So. Yeah. Goggins has a gun.
Yes, he's got a gun.
That's basically
got a gun, and he says he's going to need one more thing from. He's going to need one more favor from the Rockman,
and that's to rail the shit. That's what I want to see.
I'm interested to see if this comes into play in any way, whether we just were treated to this 10-minute soliloquy to just let us know a bit about this guy that sort of has no bearing on what happens from here.
I think it's all these like signposts to Goggins' character being like, you can change. You can turn around.
Sure.
You don't have to do this if you don't want to.
You can be the lady boy.
You can be the lady boy if you want to be the lady boy. The meditation teacher constantly being like, hey, like, I reckon if you just like check in with me, we could probably talk about some stuff. His girlfriend constantly being maimed when she's near him. Like, you know, all this stuff, like all of these signposts are saying turn around. Like, you don't have to be this person. You are not locked into this identity. It is not out of your hands, right?
Yes. I mean, Rockwell literally says, like, you can escape the karmic cycle of desire and suffering.
Yeah.
It's like, are you listening, Gog? Are you listening?
Look, I don't know if you guys went through a Buddhist stage. Tommy and I talked about it on his podcast the other week, but like, I feel like there is like such a, it is something so funny about people and me. I'm talking about me, where you're like, maybe I'm Buddhist. Like, you're just like, everything's gone to hell. Fuck, I'm Buddhist now. And like when I was like seeing this Buddhist, I was going to this Buddhist temple that did actually turn out to be a cult, but that's all right. Listen to Tommy's podcast about it. The head Buddhist was like a former, like worked in a men's prison and like basically found Buddhism through that. And I just like, the thing that really did attract me to it was that he was like, oh no, like you can like have a fucked up life and then still, it's the promise of a new life. It's a promise of like correcting these like things that happen in this life. So then like as you transition into your next life and your next life and your next life, like those slates being wiped clean, or you come back as like an ant and be crushed, or like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just like this idea, and like I love that. I don't know, it taps into fucking something, right? This like anxiety that we're all on this fucking treadmill and it's only going one way.
Yeah.
And like politically, you know, the way people are talking about things at the moment of like, well, there's nothing we can fucking do. Like these people are just crazy. And like, there's like us as people, like what can we do? And it's like, I don't know. I think it's tapping into something like this anxiety of like, I'm trapped in this cycle forever and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe we can all be the ladyboy.
Yeah.
And get railed the shit out of.
It's in this episode as well that Saxon is like, you only get one life, dude, so you got to make the most of it. Just live for yourself, live for, you know, ultimate pleasure. And then Lachlan is like, well, what about if this life is a test? You know, and you know, it's about whether you act in a good, positive way in this life to get, you know, the rewards in the next life. And Saxon's like, nah, man.
His reaction just, what? No. Loved that. Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Like you said, Jen, great writing. Everything is just encapsulated in such brevity. It's awesome. Something else is going on in Severance, I think. It's been a very interesting season. Tommy, I sent you like a couple of links during the week about the disagreements in the writing process that I think that we'd both not heard about. I don't know if
What's
you
this?
across this. It was back during production, like after they'd got back together post-COVID.
It's like the story's from like a year ago, as they were like, starting to work on this season.
Yeah, so there's obviously Ben Stiller is an EP, Dan Erickson's an EP, and then there was a third guy who they started to have serious disagreements about the writing of the show, the progression of the show.
Well, it wasn't the other guy, because Dan Erickson, who is like, I guess technically the creator who wrote the pilot, he was like a new guy when he wrote this pilot. Like, I think the script was like basically like a spec script. Like it was like in his writing packet, and he took it to Red Hour, Ben Stiller's production company. And the more Ben Stiller got into it, he was like, this isn't just a writing sample. This is like, this could be a show.
Yeah.
And so that other guy, I think, was a guy that Ben Stiller like put him together with, because it was like, okay, this guy's now essentially a showrunner, but he doesn't have like a background in having worked on anything else. It's not like he's got like an established writing partner or whatever. So I think it was an attempt to get him together with someone else, maybe with a bit more experience. And apparently they clashed and weren't talking and didn't get on, and
so
interesting.
I think before they had hit production, Stiller was trying to find a replacement and couldn't, so this guy continued to work on the season to a point, and then they found a replacement and swapped him out and continued from there. So I think that probably had an impact on the making of the show.
It just feels weird. So Jen, quick, you don't have to go deep into it, but you weren't here last week, and the episode with Cobell, which we didn't really get on with.
Like
a lot of people
sick.
felt the same.
Yeah, so I felt like absolute dog shit. Like, you know that pre-flu thing where you're like, oh, my liver's failing. My kidneys hurt. What's this about?
Yeah.
So that's where I was mentally when I watched that episode. And so then I was just like, oh, I feel ill. Like, I feel more ill after watching it. I don't know. Like, I think sometimes people push the idea of a bottle episode being like, it's a episode is just in one place. It's just the characters talking about the other and it's small and contained. And the problem is like this entire concept of Severance is a bottle episode, because it's like we're all just in this liminal space that's not really connected to any outside world, and they've just like done that again in this. But I don't know, Clebell's such a unlikable character. We spent a season and a half absolutely hating her. No redemptive qualities whatsoever. So then we are asked to then spend an entire episode with her where she's not really redeemed. Like, we understand why she's evil, but we don't we don't come out of it being like rooting for her. She even if she is kind of speeding off, to maybe help Mark. Like, we still don't get any kind of clearer. And I think maybe what it is that this show really doesn't want to give people any clarity on like what the characters' motivations are, because they want to have the option to flip it at any point. But when you're, what are we now, 7 episodes into season 2?
Nine
Next,
nine.
Next one's the last one.
The last
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I gotta just know who I'm rooting for at some
know.
point.
Yes.
Like, I just gotta
Yeah.
know that, like, maybe going into this episode, second last of the season, that maybe Clobell's gonna redeem herself. I can't be questioning whether she's just gonna make things worse for everyone again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like just the pacing of this season. I mean, coming from after the Miss Casey episode, which was such a banger, we all really enjoyed it, and then going like, okay, well, there's 3 more from here. We are fucking on.
Yeah.
And then getting the Cobell one, and then even this one, like. And this is kind of what's been so frustrating about this season. There's been some great character stuff, some great moments, some really great stuff in there. But in terms of what Mark's doing in this episode, again, this thing where we all couldn't believe Ep 3, wow, they're doing the reintegration already. But then they just haven't. Like, even this episode,
He's got a big fucking hole in the back of his head.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, they're linking up with Cobell. All right, well, we're on here. And then they just spend an entire episode just like standing in the woods waiting for it to get dark. It was just like and the whole big thing of like, here she is at the end of the episode. It's like,
yeah, we know.
This is
saw
what the
that she
end
got
of
the
2
phone call.
episodes was when Devon was calling her. Like this,
Yeah.
the threading along of this stuff is like, I'm happy. It's kind of funny that as the switch of White Lotus and Severance, where it's felt like White Lotus started very slow and then is now really on the boil, and Severance really introduced all this stuff kind of early on, and has had some like pretty high octane moments, but a lot of it has just been like
taking it down to a very low simmer.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I mean, we're all fine
like
with that,
immediately
but
after it hits boiling point, right?
exactly,
It's like,
and we're all fine with that in the things that we watch. Not like we need to be spoon fed and have stuff happening every second, but there's still got to. You've still got to feel some satisfaction out of that, or like it's for something.
Or
but
that
like,
I just know more about any of these characters.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
the only character I kind of really know more about is the characters I know more about since the beginning of the season. I know more about Gemma, obviously.
Yep.
Know more about Clobell, but I don't care. Like,
yes, exactly.
don't really actually know much more about Mark, other than like what we kind of.
We spend so little time with him.
He's the main guy, and he's
and he's
Same
kind of
with-
the reason that all of this, the whole thing, and we're learning that this Severance program is based around him. Like, and yet, like, we don't really know much more about his motivations or anything. We know a bit more that he loved Gemma, which thank God, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
The Heli R, Heli S of it all, or whatever, Heli E of it all. It's like that kind of. I'm like,
I forgot that was a thing that they fucked,
Yeah.
and then that's just been, that seems to just be not on
that's
the
just
table
spinning its tires now. It's
in
like,
any way.
like the reveal
You're
that
right.
that Helena infiltrated the severed floor has meant that the actual character Heli S is fucked, because like it's like, cool, we don't trust that anymore, that because she could be back into the, and so it's like, I just feel like this show is really, and it's the nature of the show, it's that it erodes trust, because you're constantly like, who is this person and what are they really about, and da-da-da. And like Totoro's character is like the most compelling character because he's not severed anymore, so we really do see who he is in real life.
Yeah.
I
think like
the bird of it all, like, that's compelling to me too, because that's clearly a man reconciling with his past as well, and he's no longer severed, so it's much easier to like, I don't know.
I think it's tough because like knowing that there's one left, like you just in a show like this, it's just once you're hooked, it's just, I've always felt like it's so important to know, to just have trust in the show, to know that they're gonna, Breaking Bad would do these big things and they'd back themselves into a corner, but you just by the end you were like, fucking do whatever, send him to the snow. Like, I know that you guys, like, I just completely know that you guys have it all mapped out.
Yes.
And I just haven't had that with this for a
I
couple
don't
of
have the
I've
faith
just,
in this.
I've really felt like we're going to get to this, and I don't need the season to end and have all the answers. I'm happy for there to be another little ongoing mystery or whatever. But I really do feel like, and it's been put out that the season finale is like 73 minutes or something. So, it'll be a longer one. But I just feel like it's going to be a lot of just more like mysterious, kooky stuff without like any answers.
There's like also watching White Lotus, right? White Lotus, the characters, they all fuck up, but it all comes from like very basic human needs and desires and wants, like of like they're greedy or they're scared or they're whatever, they just want to be loved and stuff. So whatever they do, even if it is kind of like, we're watching Jason Isaac's character like basically take the fall for doing some pretty bad fucking financial stuff. Goggins' character is one of the most compelling characters on the show, even though he's probably killed a bunch of people. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's like a humanity and a desperation in everything they do. These characters are not human. Severance characters are not human. They don't resemble humans that we know. Their drive, their motivations to do anything in the show don't make sense anymore. Like, especially now that we're learning about them in the outside world. It's like, if I saw that person in the outside world, I'd be like, that's fucking weird. Like, that's fucking weird. Like,
I think that, exactly what you guys were saying. I don't need to know the answer to every mystery, but I need to care. And I need to care, and I don't want just
care.
I don't want just new
for any of these people.
I just don't want new ones fucking continually piled on. And like, again, it's fine to not get all the answers, but the show presents them in a way where it is making you want to know, you know what I mean? It's really baiting you into like, oh, what's going on here? So it's like, I mean, if you're setting it up in that way, you do have to sort of give us something at some point.
Do you know what's kind of interesting to me? And I don't know, maybe this is me just reading into it, but like, I know that like Apple wasn't giving advanced previews to critics from beyond episode 6.
Right.
And I'm like, watching this, thinking about the season now, I'm like, because it fucking sharply drops off after season.
It's so weird, isn't it? Because that first season, a lot goes on, but I remember it feeling so focused. Like I was so hooked along week to week, and it feels very like, even though it is this big concept, it felt quite contained still.
And I think like, we've talked a lot throughout the season about the pacing of it and about the, stopping down for a whole episode about Gemma, which we all enjoyed and was, I think, pretty crucial for for exploring the emotions of the characters that we know and care about already. But it really feels like the first season, it was slow paced, but it was focused, and it all made a logical consistency within the terms of the show. Because the characters were asking very relevant questions about their lives and the way like the severed floor works, and they were curious and it was very reasonable and rational. And then I think a lot of people who have still enjoyed this season have been really defending it on the basis of plot and justifying it on the basis of plot. So it's like, sure, we may not have seen a lot of Mark, but that's because he's getting reintegrated, and he has to do that because he has to save Gemma from the testing floor, and you can only do that when you and like we've seen, like you said, Jen, barely anything of Helly, the character,
and setting that thing up of them meeting in the real world, like meeting like that seemed like it was going to be something, and is
and again. I feel like, yes, a lot of the other justification from people who are still into the show in a 100% into it kind of way are like, well, that'll come out. That's down the track. That'll come out in the next season. That'll like Miss Wong. She's introduced as sort of that foil for Milchick and provides that sort of antagonism. And then she's gone. And a lot of people are like, I wish I'd cared more about her character. And still the justification is like, well, she might come back. And it's like, but we just watched a whole season of a show that was the important stuff to us. The stuff we watched already.
It really, in season 1, you're totally right, everything you were saying about it. And you had something like the goat room really stuck out because it was like, you still felt so grounded in this very like heightened sort of science fiction-y concept. but that like a room where there's just a guy nursing a goat, you were like, whoa, that's so fucking, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
That really sticks out as like a real kind of David Lynchy sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting listening to their podcast about it, where they talk about how they didn't, that was something that people grabbed onto so much more than they were expecting.
Right.
And so it does feel like they've lent into that style of, device a lot more in this. Like, there's this weird little girl who's their boss, and then there's this weird like second room where there's people who look like them, and like, no, we're not into that as like we want everything in the show to be like that. Like that had impact because it stuck out as this weird little, everything else is so seemingly normal and banal. Like, you're cut off because you're in this dull, monotonous office job that you don't want to have recollections of. But then if everything around it is so weird, it's like, why wouldn't you want to work in this fruity place where there's like fucking goats on the floor? You know, like, it's exciting.
This is going to be a weird parallel to draw, but go with me on this one. Mm-hmm. This is like the difference between Sex and the City and Just Like That.
Between what you mean between season 1 and 2?
Yeah, and just that, like, Sex and the City, 6 seasons of just a wonderful show about some like beautiful broads in New York City, living, loving, laughing, gorgeous outfits. But at the heart of it, it's about friendship and it's about relationships and love and sex and, of course, the city of New York. The fourth girlie herself. Fifth girlie, I should say.
The city of New York bumps someone out.
Yeah, well, Samantha's not back.
But you're right. It's like it's about human relationships,
connection,
human dynamics.
even if it's in this heightened reality version of New York, where everyone's top to toe designer, but they're journalists, but they can afford to live in this beautiful, huge apartments in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Like, and there's no black people for some reason. Anyway, and everyone was like, yeah, I love this show because it's about the girlies and also it looks good. Then you get to like the movies and they go, oh, you love glamour? Let's like put them in insane hats. And it's not really resembling any kind of human relationship that anyone's ever had. And then you get to, and Just Like That, right? And that is like, it's truly like, doesn't resemble any kind of humanity. Let's say it has no humanity in that show. Every character is there to serve some kind of ideological or like just fucking intellectual property fucking reason, right? Like, and then they're like, but she's slaying in Gucci, and it's like, well, this isn't why I didn't watch this, because I was like, I want to know what a non-binary person would be like in this show, or like I was watching this because this was about real fucking relationships between people. And it was saying something about the culture that wasn't being said before that, or about an age group for women that hadn't been said. Anyway, all this to say, right, you can have heightened and you can have incredibly fucking high concept. I know like Sex and the City is not a sci-fi or whatever, but like you can have like a really high concept show and it still be good because it's based in some kind of recognizable humanity. And if every single character, it's like what you guys are saying, every single character is like wacky doodle, like, oh, I'm a bit weird, like, let's say autistic coded for like just brevity, you know what I mean? There's something about it where it's just like they all speak in this very strange way and it's very stilted and they all have these rules, and like you get glimpses. Like the most compelling character I feel like sometimes is Milchek, because he's constantly pushing down who he really is to exist in this world. Yes,
we're aware of his humanity because he's constantly trying to like subsume it and become the ultimate corporate guy, the ultimate company man.
And there is no difference between his like severed personality and his real life personality. He is who he is, which is a person who wants to be good at his job, and that's it. Everything else is just like, it doesn't reflect anything real anymore.
Yeah, you're right, because it is the hook of it initially. You know, you watch it and you're going, oh yeah, God, imagine that. You know, you put yourself in that position so easily. It's such a relatable concept or like thought exercise. And now that we're like
a commentary that we all related to having had shitty office jobs.
Yeah, who we are,
and we're dabbling in all this other like weird
eugenics, essentially.
surreal stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bit like it's kind of.
I feel like
it just feels like a different show.
It wants to be far more ahead of the audience than it is. Like, for example, the Helly reveal. We all knew it coming in.
Yeah.
Like, we all felt that coming.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and then we finally revealed. And it's like, yeah, we cottoned onto that.
Yeah.
The thing that's really like raised red flags with me is like that they're releasing all this like supplementary material to the show. Like they did the vinyl release of the soundtrack, and it's like files from Cold Harbor, and there's like the book and things like that. And I'm just like, man, all this fucking noise around this, but none of it actually helps me. You know what I mean? Like,
but you know what's frustrating is like, you know, it sounds like the way we're talking about it, it sounds like we hate it, but like the season's been mostly great. There's been so much great stuff in it, but then there's just been these like weird. It's weird to be talking like this 2 weeks after an episode that I thought was like one of the great episodes of television.
Yeah, right.
It's more just that like I just don't. And, you know, knowing that they're, you know, going to take their time in between seasons, as they should, if they want to. Every show should have the option to do that. I just don't want to get to I just am really feeling like I was so hooked and so in, and I'm going to get to the end of this next episode and just be like,
feel
cool, more question. Oh, yeah, we found out what Cold Harbor was, and it's like, I don't know, you know, something kind of inconsequential, but then meanwhile, what's these other 4 big mysteries? See you in 4 years.
Look, maybe it's just because, and I said this before we got on this morning, I'm being fucked off by every cunt in my life right now. but I do feel like there is a tendency with Apple shows specifically that the second half always for some reason just drops off. And I don't know if it's like the way that they structure like the shoots, like the blocks and stuff like that maybe like they have their first block directed by these people and these writers and whatever. But it's just like, I really find it often to like stick with Apple shows till the end to continue to care, because I do feel like they tread water. And I wonder if it's because these types of shows would have either 20 episodes or 6. And we're in this like kind of mid-range of like 10 to 12 or whatever. And it just feels like they're either like trying to like, they get commissioned for 6 and then it's like actually push out to 10. Right. And then maybe that's why we're treading water. I don't know. Like there's something about it.
I mean, I'm sure there is something about like doing the stats on, if you assume people might just subscribe to watch the show, then you do need it to be, you know, you want to get, so 10, what's that? That ticks over into 3 months, right?
Yeah.
If people are watching week to week, whereas like, you know, 6 is only a month and a half. Yeah, that's like squeezing as much as you can out of people.
Yeah.
But I think the main issue with the season is, like we've been saying, the first season was all about character and about relating to and empathizing with and caring about them. And the second season has all been about plot. It's the plot was secondary. It was a really slow-paced first season in terms of like each episode. And then it built to a great crescendo at the end. But we only cared about the crescendo because we cared about the characters. And it's so fragmented this season. It's gone off in all these directions. I also agree, Jen, that like Bert as a character is an interesting character. But I feel like we've seen like essentially one short scene where he's in the car. We saw the dinner with Fields, which was great. And then we've seen the end. It's like you literally just get a beginning, middle, and end scene of this potentially very interesting character-driven story. Yeah. Because there's all this other shit to fit into the...
and the same with like Dylan and his wife coming in. You know, that gets set up and you think like, oh, some shit will happen here. And then we don't see anything of it for 3 episodes.
Yep.
And then... yeah, he finds out about it and quits. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, he would be pissed off.
Again,
all
like,
right.
Merritt Weaver's character, the wife, one of the more interesting fucking characters in it, because she seems to be a person who truly reflects like, yeah, this is fucking weird.
Yeah.
This is going to have like really hectic consequences on my life as your partner.
Yeah.
Like, there is actual humanity in her thing, her reacting to the world and the circumstance and the choices that her partner's made and being like, this affects me in some way that isn't just like, I'm going to try and uncover a government conspiracy. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I just, it's so frustrating. They've set it up so well. And then, like you're saying, like the Bert thing, it's like, okay, so I guess he and his dog are being disposed of in some way.
Yeah.
Like, conceptually or literally, however you want to, like, but
even
like,
just
cool.
like the start
the
of
one
this
character I was kind of rooting for.
Yeah. The start of this episode where it's Helena visiting her dad and she's eating the eggs in this weird way that would drive George Costanza up the wall. I was like, that if the last, like, if there'd been more cohesion across this season and that was something that was in there, I would think like, oh, what a cool stylistic thing. You know, I would have really loved it. But in the context of like the last couple of weeks, I was just like, fuck off. I don't want people doing any more fucking weird shit just for the hell of it. Fuck off.
Strange,
I don't care. And then her dad showing up on the floor. I'm like, I don't care. I don't need a new fucking mystery of like, just show me the reintegration fucking like, because the start of the show is like we see Petey's friend like going mental out in public and really battling with it. And so it's like we know that that's an established thing that like this procedure drives people fucking insane.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've just had Mark be asleep for like 4 episodes.
Oh my God. Also, like in the first season, there was all this like chatter around it of like, like people in the world think that being severed is fucking gross and weird. That just dropped out like halfway through. It's like, oh no, now everyone lives in these ghost towns where these severance factories used to be. Like, that's fine. That's normal. It's like, what the fuck? There is no
real world.
What is this? And I don't know. And then I don't want it to be like, and guess what? It was all a dream. Like, I don't. If you do that to me,
live in a snow globe.
Like. It's sort of feeling that way.
It is like, and just, I don't know. It really reminds me of, do you know that SNL sketch where all of the different actors are playing Christopher Walken? It's like the Walken family reunion. Yes. It feels like that. But everyone's doing like I'm very strange. I have a quirk about, I'm very uptight character, but I have a quirk.
Yes.
I don't talk like a normal person. And it's just like that. It's like different actors just trying to play this same archetype of a straight man. It's it's like that. Those
articles you sent me, Ben, because they are just like speculative, but they seem to have come from enough different sources. But it's interesting, like reading that and then thinking about the season. Like, it makes total sense that there would have been. When you watch it, knowing that, you can really see the seams of like these creative breakdowns where because again like directions and I felt like the first couple of episodes were good. I didn't love the Orpo one, but I was all right, give this one the benefit of the doubt. It's like a little and seeing some people be like really down on it from the get-go and really feeling like a defender of it and it's like you really can see those seams of things like with more kind of harmony or everyone being on the same page in the writer's room, like going, the Cobell doesn't need to be a whole bottle thing. We can tell that we can tell that more quickly. Like, hey, if we're going to do the reintegration early, we've got to actually get into it. Like, it actually has to start, like it has to kick in next episode. And that's the interesting challenge to set for ourselves. If we're going to leave it and not explore the consequences of it quickly, then let's just do it Ep 7 and have it be the boosters from then.
Even in this episode, the reintegration doesn't truly take hold. And then the way they solve that problem is like, oh, we'll just take him to the birthing cabin where he'll be severed again. It's like, cool, so what was that for? Like, what was the whole thing with the reintegration and having old mate down in the basement and, you know... What was that for? If they're just going to solve that plot hole with, we'll just go to the cabin.
And setting up these conventions of like the end of last episode, she's got the evidence that she came up with it all. She's on the phone and she's like, boom, let's go. And you really are making it look like, right on, next episode, we are fucking on here.
Yeah.
And then we spend it's like, no, we can't go until it's dark. It's still dangerous then, but we can't go until it's dark. It's like, if it's dangerous either, like, just, what?
It's like
Yeah.
listening to someone explain to you the rules of a board game that you have no interest in playing. And they're like, oh, well, you can't roll that dice because that dice actually means this. And you're like, okay.
What?
Like, great. And then they're like, oh, and now you get to move in the squiggly pattern. And isn't that wonderful? And you're like, why? And they're like, well, then you get closer to this thing. And you're just like, why has this been 8 hours of my life?
Yeah. God, that is a very good analogy.
Yeah,
that is a very.
I
good
will say though,
analogy.
I am weirdly excited for this last episode. Like, I just feel like
For it to be over.
Well, no, I mean it's like okay,
my fucking head.
the stakes are so high. You know what I mean? Like, there is a part of me that still thinks that maybe with a 70-minute and there's no, like, you know, obviously there'll be another season, etc. But like, there really is nowhere to. They have, you know. I don't know.
Do a bottle episode this week.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm something, and even if it's bad, it's like, okay, well, at least then we're, you know, then we know, then it's done. But I don't know. I'm excited. There's still a little part of me that thinks like this could be one of the great. This could be one of the great landings. Who knows?
I hope so. I feel like it's setting us up for Son of the Mask. I feel like that's where we're ending up. All the baby imagery in the credits.
Yeah.
And kind of this kind of oblique references to the birthing cabin and all this stuff. It's going to be Son of the Mask. I do really hope that it gets to a point that like makes this worth it. Yeah. And guess what, boys? It has been worth it.
Yeah.
Maybe the real Severance has been the friends we've made a lot of.
Oh, yeah. That is true.
Well, we don't. I feel like we don't really need to go through it. We've kind of ended up going. We've sort of ended up touching on everything that happens.
Yeah.
There were some good moments. I wasn't like. I mean, especially after last week, I was. Yeah, exactly. I was liking bits and pieces of it, but I think for me, the dad showing up on the severed floor, I was just like, I'm sorry. This is too many. You have too many unanswered threads going on at the moment to introduce. And like, okay, showing us that other room of those. Yeah.
What's she doing? Where are the goats? What's going on there?
Yeah.
What happened in the
that room with those other guys?
Yeah, the archive room or whatever it was.
Yeah, O&D. The goat paddock. Yeah, it is. Yes, because like you said, Tommy, I think they just put it in to be weird. It didn't
that's
mean
kind
anything.
of that is what it's feeling like a bit at this point.
It's student theatre vibes, dude.
Yeah.
The car, like all the cars being old, like Ben Stiller was just like, it's to create an atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I love I did love the bus picking up
Miss Wong.
Miss Wong. Yeah.
Like, look, if it's like, did you guys ever see It Follows and the use of the shell phone, where it was like, we need something that seems like it's futuristic but also anachronistic and it doesn't really resemble anything we have, but we kind of know it to be a phone or something, but then it doesn't have the same rules. If it was that, I'd kind of understand it. Like, they've created an alternate, but the whole hook of the show is like, imagine if this was real. Like, this could be real. Maybe we don't know that there is severance going on in this world. Like, that corporations are capable of this. But that also links it to, like, our reality as viewers to be like, cool. Like, it's like the same with even fucking Harry Potter or whatever. It's like, imagine if behind that wall there was a whole world of wizards. Like, you know, there's that hook to us of like, this could be, and it's like magical and it's, but this is just like,
and then
imagine a world in which no one gave a fuck about anything.
The reason you care about Harry Potter is because we all went to school. We all had friendship dynamics like that. We all had challenges to work. Like, that's why it was, so
and
beloved.
Also, like, as teenagers, the world is big and scary. And like a good way to embody that is through demons and witches and whatever. Like,
totally.
This doesn't feel like, you know what it is? It's actors writing about office jobs.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
A man who's never had an office job. A man who's been famous since he was 21.
Yes.
Yeah.
Helming a show about The Office.
Yeah. Good point.
Totally.
This man's never worked a temp job in his life.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of, because Dan Erickson, like, he worked in a door factory. Like, he is the guy who's, I think, most responsible for the satire and the commentary and that idea of, like, what if? And then, yes, you're right. A Nepo baby and a bunch of showbiz people getting hold of it and being like, but what if it was a magical cult? And, it's just a little bit
It's
less
just like the banality
interesting.
of office work. The banality of like that kind of work is what makes it toxic. You don't have to have like some kind of amoral world around it. We
Yeah.
already live in a sort of permissive world that like goes like, yeah, it's fine to feel absolutely drained by your job. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, you
Yes.
don't need to
It was
make
better
me
when-
like believe that. I believe that. I've had that job.
Exactly. The fun of like there being like sort of scattered throughout the first season, the stuff about like pretending that the head of the company is almost like a religious figure is because that's what it's like in real life.
Yeah.
Like CEOs get raised up as if they are godlike. There are, values and beliefs written down in corporate Bibles. Like, it's enough to just be a light touch and to make us be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like real life. It doesn't have to be literally a cult-like religion that is like a plot point. But anyway.
It's interesting. Have you heard about that ex-Facebook employee memoir that's come out that like Meta's trying to get suppressed?
Oh,
essentially?
I did hear about
yes.
this, yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I feel like that gives us a great model for this type of corporation where, like, apparently one of the stories is like this woman, this Facebook exec is 2 months from just having had a kid, is back at work, and they want to send her to North Korea to see to test if North Korea really will jail any Facebook worker.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I see why they're trying to get it suppressed, but it's also like, yeah, that's a fucked up,
Yeah.
insane
Yeah.
story. That's true. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to believe that there's goats being farmed
Right.
in the
Right.
Meta
I don't need to believe in
headquarters.
goats.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't need to
yeah.
believe there are farm people in the basement of fucking Meta.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of get the vibe. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Well,
Anyway,
we'll find out next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, I am.
Join us, won't
really
you,
curious.
for the finale of Severance next week on Videodrone.
Thank you for listening, though. Very curious to see what people are still thinking of this show. We've had some people in the Discord drop some comments on the Insta posts.
Yep.
And White Lotus as well. I'm much more invested in White Lotus.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
strange. I mean, they're real people. Who could have predicted
Yep.
that would be more
Yep.
interesting? Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with the Severance finale and some more White Lotus.
Yeah. Bye,
Don't sound
y'all.
too excited, Ben.